happens to all these big publishing houses in the next 20 or 30 years?
What I think will happen is different than what I hope will happen. I think if you look, there's probably about 5 or 6 publishing houses, the Harcourt Brace Jovanoviches, or whatever it is, Harcourt Houghton Mifflin, the Random House, the Simon and Schusters, and a few of their subsidiary presses. There's like a big, it's like the movie studios. There's about a half a dozen of the big presses that control everything, or 90%, 95% of the market. If I had my druthers, I'd like to see, as I said, that e-press come along and change the marketplace so that you would have just, 20 some years ago, if you look at the biggest corporations today, Amazon, I read, there was an article this week, in fact, scathing about the way Amazon treats its workers, really shockingly. Not shockingly, I'm being facetious. But Amazon has now outstripped, it's the biggest retailer in the world. It's now it's like 25% bigger than Walmart. And if you look at Walmart was the pre-internet apotheosis of what capitalist consumerism could be. Now it's moved on to Amazon. So Amazon has come and displaced that. If you look at Google, if you're talking about a technology company, it used to be IBM. IBM was Big Blue throughout from the 1930s, before World War II, up until maybe mid 80s, early 90s. IBM was the dominant for over half a century. It was the apotheosis of old time capitalism. Uh, Microsoft came along, Google came along, obliterated them. So I hope that there will be an e-publisher that will become the e-version of Random House. Not in that they're going to still put out the crap that the current Random House puts out, but that would find the Robinson Jefferses and publish poetry, great poetry for people. That would be the Simon and Schusters. That would be the new directions for this century. What I think, though, is going to happen is that out of those maybe 6 or 7 old line companies, there will still be 2 or 3, and they will probably buy out some of these upstarts, and they will try to co-opt the system. And because, as I mentioned earlier when we were talking, money talks, and I don't think things will go the way they should go, but I could be wrong. Hopefully, maybe technology will empower people. Maybe some people that if just one e-company comes along and makes an e-publishing superstar whose work, what really needs to happen is, if, let's say, one of my novels or one of my wife's novels or one of your books, if you write a novel, it became a bestseller, and not only became a bestseller just as an ebook, not as physical, but a bestseller, and then comes along a Hollywood studio that says, well, we're going to make a movie out of Alex Sheramet's, Diaries of My Mom or something. And so they're going to make a movie out of a book that came from, that would be the imprimatur for an e-publisher to get a Hollywood studio to make a film, or to develop an ongoing television series from something that someone that didn't have an editor, that was just something someone wrote. There's this bizarre thing, and I've always found it odd. I mentioned an earlier video about David Foster Wallace's Infinite Jest, and how famously he wrote 3,000 pages of garbage. An editor cut it down to 2,000, and then down to 1,000. It's still a piece of shit. But there are famous stories of things like Time in the River by what's his name? Thomas. I can't think of the name. Jessica's read the book a few times. That similarly, he had a mess, but there was something that a good editor could craft out of it. So I think that that you need to have the competence. I think that an e-publisher needs to come along and just say, fuck it, we're going to do what's right, and hopefully get that imprimatur, that money-making imprimatur, so that a writer like me, if I started a website and apart from Cosmoetica, just say to peddle my books, that I could develop a loyal readership of 40 or 50,000 people, that when I put a book out, they'll download it and buy it for $3, $5, $8, whatever you want to sell it. these $30 hardback books, it doesn't cost $30 to produce a hardback book. It really doesn't. It costs maybe $2 or $3. That 1,000% overhead or charges above the production cost. Most of that goes to these high-powered executives that don't do a damn thing. That don't do a damn thing. It goes back to what you said about mediation and the demonic nature is that, yes, there will be more people and there will be thousands of websites of people that write the kind of shit that I get sent to endlessly, bad stories, bad poems and whatnot. But if people are educated and people are, and those great writers are held up and reviewed for being great, I think that it can be done, but I don't know if it will be. I do know that nothing is going to get lost. When I die, if I'm published by any kind of big press or not, my stuff, my wife or you, I'd have as a literary executive, and I would, I guess, will it to a local university or whatnot, and hopefully some idiot would say, well, this guy had a popular website for 40 years. Maybe he did write something good. Let's look at his stuff. Because when you're dead, this has happened, and this will continue to happen. When someone is dead, they're not a threat to the current power establishment. So uh, in sum, I would say that my hope is that all of the old time publishers will fade away with their failed business models, and it's models that have failed because they have refused to change, that they have gotten ossified, that they want to just constantly keep the creative element in a subservient position. Hopefully, technology will free that up. It will bring out a flood of bad garbage, but hopefully, the really great stuff will survive, and I think it will.